It is now. Can you hear me now? Okay, so this afternoon we're going to talk about communicating effectively across all generations, to all generations. And I really want to just kind of start out with this question. What would you consider to be enemies of communication? Coffee? Is that what you said? That's an enemy. Oh, talking? All right.
Thinking of everything you have to say to interact with that person instead of listening to what they're saying.
Yeah.
So in other words, I do that all the time. They say something and then I key in on it, and I'm like, I got to answer that.
So you interrupt.
And a great illustration of that. Yeah. Defensiveness, yeah. Being defensive.
I think just fear in general stops us from communicating.
Yeah. We were talking earlier about my being at airports. And, it's kind of interesting because I'm not the type that's going to engage conversation. I park at a certain place to go to the Nashville airport. I get on the bus, the driver's there, and there's this, I'm the only passenger at the start. And he said, do you mind waiting just a couple minutes or are you in a hurry? And I said, I don't mind waiting. And he said, well, there's another woman just pulled up. So he waited for her to get out of her car and she got on the bus. And so anyway, we're chatting and the bus driver asked what I do. And so I told him. And so anyway, the woman behind me was listening. She's like, do you have a business card? Well, once she engaged conversation, I'm going to talk. I'm not going to, not speak. But anyway, it's kind of interesting. She does, she's a music or a band teacher. Yeah, she said music teacher. And she is over an organization that kind of does a lot of the eastern half of the country, a lot of competitions and stuff. So she's wanting to know some things about leadership. So I told her to go to the website and that kind of stuff. And then I'm on the plane sitting next to this woman. And I don't engage women in conversation ever. I mean, I just don't. And so I'm sitting there and I'm reading a book that a student gave me that he wrote. He wanted me to read called Living Evangelism. And it's really pretty good, actually. And we landed. I mean, I'm just about ready to get off the plane. And she's like, are you a pastor? And I'm like, no, I'm a teacher. And this is what I teach and stuff like that. I said, I have a student who, because she said, I saw the book you were reading on evangelism. And I said, well, I have a student who wrote the book and he wanted me to read it. And so anyway, we got to talking about, we had a little conversation about all that kind of stuff. But, it's hard for me to want to communicate with people I don't know. If I've never met them before and I'm not going to see them for more than 30 minutes, I mean, chances are we're not going to have a conversation. I'm just not, unless they engage it. Now, if they engage, sometimes I'll wear t-shirts that have various sayings on them, mainly from The Chosen. My daughter has a cricket, so she's made me 3 or 4 different shirts that have things written on them. One of my favorites is the picture of outline of Jesus. It says, I am the law of Moses. I love that quote from the movie. And then one of my favorites that I like to wear as far as a t-shirt is I have one that says, I have only one thing to do today, and that is follow him. I love that from Matthew in The Chosen, so I thought that was pretty cool. So she put that on a t-shirt. And sometimes people will say, they'll ask, what's that about? Or, love that show, or, and they engage conversation, or they'll have on a shirt. They'll say something about Jesus or something of that nature. My wife's shirt that she wears is funny. It says, I forget the first thing. It says, I love this, pickleball, and about 3 other people. And so, I love Jesus. I love Jesus, pickleball, and 3 other people. And anyway, that gets a lot of conversation, to say the least. But anyhow, sometimes what we wear can get a conversation started. So, but yeah, I have this fear of talking to people that I don't know. I just don't like it. But I'm not going to be unkind or unfriendly if they engage me. It's just not my thing. It's called being introverted. I'm a closet introvert. What else? What else do you think becomes an enemy of communication?
Not giving the other person a chance to speak. If you're a monopolizer,
Yeah, let's put it that way. Is that how you spell that? Monopolizer. Monopolizer, yeah. A person's going to monopolize the conversation. That kind of becomes an enemy. What else?
well, who's talking also not talking.
All right. So talking, not talking.
Body language.
Woo, yeah. What's an enemy of communication?
Body language.
Ah, yeah, tone of voice. All right. I'll tell you, Cheryl and I play pickleball quite a bit. We love playing pickleball. And we went the other night, and we have designated courts there close to our house, and so we're out there playing. And I kind of enjoy just playing one-on-one, you know, but it's kind of designed to do pairs. But anyway, this couple came from India. I think they were from India. And the girl, I didn't hear her speak any English except profanity. It's like everything she said was in a foreign language except profanity. I'm like, really? Is that the best you got? Is you can't speak anything in English except profanity? I'm like, come on. I come out here as a family to try to play some pickleball and have fun, and you're over here cursing. I'm like, man, go play somewhere else. Anyway, it's another conversation. That's a language I don't like. Huh? I don't, yeah.
Somebody said something to somebody in Stewart the other day, and he had to start out with the F word. And it's like, and he was talking about the guy's hatchback. It's like, why did you even insert that word there? Because it's not necessary.
I know. History. And what do you mean history? Ah. Like talking about my past?
Like growing up, if there was something that I had that a thought that changed, I always had to fight all the history of any statement I had ever made before.
Ah.
How I really was disagreeing with myself.
Ah,
It was
okay.
never a moment,
I thought for a second you were talking about the idea of, you know, back when I was growing up, we used to do it this way.
More like being historical, like owning everything to where everything, like every conversation is along historical.
I got you. Okay. Sort of, yeah. Dredging is a good word. Oh, there we go. Another good one. Yeah. Making assumptions. And we do that a lot, you know. We do that a lot. I do, anyway. Maybe others don't, but I do that a lot. Making assumptions. Especially when it comes to assuming that the other person knows what you're thinking. It's like, why do we do that? It's like, don't assume the other person knows. Tell them. That way there's no doubt. Don't just assume, oh, you know what I'm thinking. Now, we'll have to tell you, my wife and I have been married 43 years. She does kind of know what I'm thinking most of the time.
It doesn't work the other way back. I know what he's thinking, but he doesn't always know what I'm thinking.
Well, I'll have to say it works that way in our house too. Yeah, I don't always know what she's thinking because she's always thinking differently than I am. So I at least know that part. I know that what she's thinking is not the same as what I'm thinking. Oh, y'all have to know Cheryl. Y'all know Cheryl, but she's a hoot. She's kind of the heartbeat of our family. So she's a lot of fun. Any other ideas? How about this one? You ever try to communicate when you're tired? Especially as husband and wife. You know, I lay down, my wife knows that when I lay down, she's got maybe 2 minutes and then I'm out. And so if we're going to have conversation, I'm either going to have to stand up or sit down or something. But if I'm laying down, there's no conversation happening because I'm going to go to sleep because I'm tired. And she doesn't want me to wake her up at 5 in the morning when I get up to talk because she's tired. She's a night owl and I'm an early bird. So the idea is that if we're going to talk, we have to schedule a time when we're going to be able to talk about that without one of us going to sleep. And so I'm tired. When I'm tired, I don't think well. I can't process well. And so I have to...
And you can't remember in the morning?
Yeah, there's that. Any type of distraction is an enemy of communication. It can be a lot of things. So, and we can beat this for a long time, but I really want to do something. So, Michelle and Kathy, if y'all will come up here. I want y'all to sit back to back here for a second. And so I want you, as we do this exercise, I want you to be thinking about if you were in their place, maybe what you would say, but more importantly, I want you to think about what's happening in this process of communication. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you all 30 seconds each. So we're going to start with you, Kathy. You're going to be the one speaking. And Michelle, you're going to be the one listening. Now, the thing is you can't turn your head. You have to just keep looking forward. You can just look forward and you're going to speak. And then after 30 seconds, we'll swap. And Michelle, you'll speak. And Kathy, you'll try to listen. So the first thing that you're going to do is I want you to tell Michelle, if you could be any animal on the planet, what animal would you be and why? Go.
I would be a bear because bears have little teeny tiny babies in their sleep and you don't have to worry about them. Nobody cares if they have hairy legs and they're big soft creatures.
You got 15 more seconds.
15 more seconds, okay. They don't care what I look like in the morning and I can growl if I want to. Nobody's going to say anything.
Okay. 30 seconds. All right, Michelle, same thing. And Kathy, you can't turn around and look. You got to just look straight forward. And Michelle, same thing. If you could be any animal, what animal would you be and why? Go.
I would be a penguin because they are very well coated and humans just kind of fly off of them. They are adorable. Kind of big for them. We have trouble getting out of the water and we slip and fall. Up very high.
Okay. So here's the question. When you're trying, and this is for anybody, have you ever tried to talk to somebody that they're not looking at you, they're looking the other direction? How does it make you feel as a person who's trying to talk to someone and you can't see them? Why? Why is it awkward?
Because I want to see their reactions to what I'm saying, to see if there's more information I need to convey or if I've over-conveyed, because you can tell a lot by body language.
Ah, okay.
I just sense it because if they're not paying attention.
Ah. Anybody else experience that? How did you feel when you're trying to talk to somebody and you can't see them? I mean, you got your back to them or they got their back to you. You're trying to talk to them.
But even more so, you're trying to talk to somebody and you're there, but they're looking to the side.
Oh, I'm glad you said that. Ladies, turn your chairs around. Well, hold that thought. Hold that thought. So this time, I want you to kind of sit knee to knee. So facing each other. And same kind of drill. You're going to get 30 seconds, but you got something different this time. So you're going to speak. You can look at her, but you can't look at her. So you can look anywhere but her. I mean, you can look down. You can look around. I mean, just anything but. Do not look at her in any way. And what I want you to do is, in the last, month or two, maybe 6 months, I want you to spend 30 seconds talking about something that you really enjoyed getting to do and why you had enjoyed getting to do that. Does that make sense?
It does.
All right, so you got 30 seconds and go.
I got to help out at 518 Day, which is a day of caring and giving at work, and we all went out as volunteers to help and as coordinators, and I got to meet a lot of people that I like, and I got to help out a lot and pull weeds and help other people with the needs that they have, and it's a very satisfying thing to do. I enjoy helping people.
Okay. Now, same drill. So, Michelle, you're going to talk about something the last couple of months or the last 6 months, something like that. That's something that you really enjoyed. It was exciting to you, that kind of thing. And Kathy, you're going to do the same thing. Anything but look at Michelle. And go.
When we went to Florida, we went to Discovery Cove. We fed the stingrays, and we were able to snorkel in the reef with all the different fish and all the different stingrays. We fed the dolphins and swam with dolphins. And they have a bird sanctuary that you're able to go and interact with the birds and they land on you while you're feeding them.
Okay. I'm reading the body language here and I'm thinking, Michelle's about to slap her. It's like, pay attention, one. No. In my mind, I'm thinking, this is like talking to a teenager. It's like, pay attention. Yeah. But what, I mean, I know you wouldn't slap her, but I mean, what are you feeling when you're trying to talk to somebody and you know they're just totally ignoring you even though you're staring at them? So what kind of feelings do you have?
Like, I don't have to imagine this. I live this. I have a 16-year-old.
Okay.
And, right, she's looking down, she's looking, and I'm like, excuse me, like, I am speaking to you. You need to hear me. Like, if you're not looking, I know that you're not listening. You're thinking about something else, or wishing I would stop, or whatever it is. I know that we're not actually communicating.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Anybody else? Kathy, how does it make you feel?
Lousy. Like, what I'm saying is uninclusive.
Yeah.
And I don't like that because when I listen to you, I want to make you feel like you're important with what you're saying. And if you're not listening to me, and I know it, it feels like what I'm saying is not getting through, it's not important, and that you're talking over my
Can't borrow this. Anybody else?
Especially if you're talking about something that's important to you, it feels...
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of what you were talking about, the idea of somebody, you're looking at them, but they're not engaged.
It's like, okay, I've got something else that's got my attention, not
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And it's just, like you say, hello, like I'm talking to a wall.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, if we're not careful, sometimes that's kind of what happens when we have somebody that comes as a visitor to the church service. Because we kind of walk up and we're kind of like shaking hands, and it's kind of like we're already looking around to see who else we can talk to after we've asked them, how you doing? And they're trying to tell us something, and what we communicate when we're doing that can be pretty rough. So this time, so this time she's going to speak for 30 seconds. And what you're going to do is just what you're doing. You're going to kind of look at the phone, and you may look up for a second at her and kind of do this. You kind of go, oh, yeah. And you know how it works. So you know the drill. But this time, I want you to talk about something that's coming, something you're really looking forward to, something you're excited about that's coming maybe in the next couple of weeks, or that maybe it's 6 months down the road. But there's an event or an activity or something in the future that you're really excited about, you're looking forward to besides going to heaven. And try to tell her what that is, and you're just going to be distracted with the phone. Okay? And go.
Well, my husband's coming home on Monday. He's been gone since Friday. I dropped him off in the morning, and I'm lonely. I'm very lonely without him. I want to have him around. He helps out a lot, but he's also my spiritual
Okay. We're sorry about the dog. If you'd hand Kathy the phone, same drill. Your phone may not work when you get it back. But anyway. Okay, so the same thing, something you're looking forward to, something you're excited about. I mean, I could almost fill in the blank after talking to Gary. So I know something he's excited about. But anyway, sushi. Yeah, anniversary dinner. Okay, and go.
So yeah, so tomorrow's my anniversary. We're going to be going out this evening for dinner. And then August 10th and 11th, I believe, Gary has a trip in Connecticut that I will be going with him for the first 2 days for a little mini getaway. And I'm hoping to go to the beach while we're there. And we're
Okay. I really thought she was going to slap you at that time.
They knew the assignment, but I want you to hear this.
yeah, was that the pretend part of this? Because this would never, I would never master it. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, the technology thing is massive, massive, massive. This one probably is more, I mean, they're all similar, but this one probably connects more, especially when we're trying to work with young people. But it's true with adults. I mean, think about what it's going to communicate. You go for your anniversary dinner and you set the phone on the table. What does that communicate to the other person, you know? And so if a person is distracted when you're trying to talk to them about something you're super excited about, you're really looking forward to, I mean, how does that make you feel?
Again, you're not even present, really.
Yeah.
You're not listening. I'm not important. What I'm saying isn't important. And
You probably got the chicken. Are you listening to me right here? I could never let it go on that long.
Well, that's what she was saying. Yeah, 30 seconds. Never would have made it.
It's very difficult. Yes.
It is. And the younger that we get our kids' devices, the earlier they learn to do that very thing. And it gets very, very challenging. I know that with our grandkids, the minute they got old enough to get phones, or at least as old as the parents thought they were going to get phones, I mean, everything in the house changed. I mean, they just sit around doing this the whole time. I mean, it's just, they're just glued to it. And it's hard to talk to them because they don't even put the phone down. They may look up, they may acknowledge you for a second or say yes or no, and then they go right back to their phone. So it's really, really been hard.
One earbud in,
Oh, yes. Very good.
they're watching a video or something on the phone while you're trying to.
Or they're talking to someone. That's the thing I hate the most, is they're on the phone talking to somebody, and you don't know they're on the phone talking to somebody, but they got that earbud in, you're like, what? It's like, oh, I'm on the phone. It's like, well, then hold the phone up to your ear, you know, so that way I know you're on the phone. But they don't do that. Anyway, Jim?
In the previous exercise, when we were talking about looking at people, the other thing that we do need to be aware of is those that are on the autism spectrum, those that it is difficult for them to make eye contact.
Oh, yeah.
They're not doing it. So there is a way, we have to kind of read also into people because,
Yeah.
you know, that's there today.
Well, see, my thing is I'm really not thinking as much about the other person as I am trying to make sure I don't do that to them. I mean, if they choose to look away, I mean, unless it's family, but if I'm greeting somebody and I don't know them very well, you know, they come in as a visitor and I'm talking to them, if they kind of do that, if they kind of look away, it kind of tells me, okay, just be patient here. But I want to make sure that when they come in, if they make eye contact, I don't want to be the one who's looking away so that they think I'm uninterested in talking to them. So yeah, I'm trying to think, I'm glad you brought that up because it is true. We just kind of have to be careful who it is.
I think I relate most with what Kathy said from the very beginning, where she was like, I can't read your face, I don't know if I need to stop talking, I need
Yeah.
to change course, I need to, especially because my only sibling has Asperger's, and so like sometimes I would get intense eye contact, it's like, are you about to punch me? Like, I don't know what you're feeling,
Yeah.
or reverse. On the other side, my dad being like, you can't look him in the eye while he's talking because it's disrespectful. So there's like this taking each each moment as a moment, and, you know, that worry of like, I just need to know that I'm being fully present, but I actually don't know what they want from me
Yeah.
in this moment. It'd be really
Yeah,
challenging.
yeah. So we got one more. This one's a little better, but it's a little more personal. So I'm going to give you about 45 seconds to a minute. And so I want you to share something with the other person that they don't know about you. Okay? So share something that you don't know, but this time you're going to be engaged. You're going to look at each other. You're going to ask questions. Yeah, I mean, you can feel free to ask questions to the other person who's communicating with you. But I mean, engage in conversation this time and notice the difference. And especially as you're watching, I want you to notice the difference in the body language and just in the way things are expressed as you talk about something that the other person wouldn't know about you, that you'd like to share with them to kind of help build a relationship so that you're kind of being a little more intimate this time, maybe vulnerable. It's kind of up to you to decide how you want to do that. But I usually give a little longer on this last one because it does give you an opportunity to ask a question if you want clarification, but you're fully looking at each other this time and communicating. Okay? And so, Kathy, you get to start and go.
I have a whole lot of issues with things that I've done in the past. I was not a good person. I did a lot of things that I shouldn't have done. I got, when my parents divorced, I blamed myself for that. And so I took that anger out on everybody around me, and I took it out on myself. I was getting very badly about drinking when I shouldn't have. How old was I? And it was very, very difficult for me. My sister seemed to just blow it off. But I did not. They sent counselors into the school and took us aside when I thought I was in trouble. And they said, well, who do you want to be with, your mommy or your daddy? And it was upsetting to me because I didn't want that. I wanted to be with both of them. So I spent probably 20 plus years blaming myself for their divorce because I thought it was my fault. Whenever I asked a question of either one, they said, well, we can't tell you how. And so I took that to me and it was all my fault. And so I took it out on very, very bad behavior. I took a lot of classes in high school. I've always been very smart, so I managed to graduate on time.
Okay. Isn't it amazing how quickly almost a minute and a half went by? I didn't want to stop you because I'm learning some things. I'm thinking, this is very interesting. And it makes me appreciate you more. So anyway, same thing this time, and go.
I don't know if you know this, but I didn't grow up going to church. There wasn't a Bible present in my house. It was never anything that was discussed. There was no idea of what was moral or correct.
And how did you feel about that?
Well, I was exposed to a lot of things at an early age, drug use and drinking, that I shouldn't have been around at that age. And obviously, forever. It was, my whole childhood. And then similarly, this is something that when you're old enough, you get to do it too. It didn't seem abnormal or not healthy, or it's just the way things work. I had a date.
Yes.
And when God answers a prayer, He gives you a miracle, and you might want to do something different.
Wow.
I knew enough to pray and ask for forgiveness, but that was about it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ladies. Thank you for being so good to participate and be a part of that. I got it.
Okay.
So what's the difference? What is the difference in the three exercises? One where they can't see each other, one where there's total ignorance of not even looking, and the other one where they're distracted with their phone, and this idea of being fully engaged conversation. Yeah. And just like that. I mean, I'm just observing and I feel connected. And I feel connected in a way that's like makes me value and appreciate where you are now because of where you were then. And I would never have known that. And I would encourage you at some point as a congregation to do those kinds of things more often. You know, where you sit down and just almost put the chair face to face with somebody and just talk. And sometimes just being vulnerable enough to share some things that the other person may not know about you. Because if you do that, it gives the other person a safe space to be able to do the same. And the more we get intimate with each other and the more we share some of those kinds of things, and I'll say this, it's easier for ladies to do that than it is men. But men, we have got to learn how to do that. We've got to be more open and transparent with each other. Because the thing is, especially this generation that's coming up, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for that type of transparency, that type of authenticity in order to really feel connected to a congregation. Because when they come here, they want to know that this is more than just sitting on a chair for an hour to sing some songs they probably don't know real well, to hear prayers that they've probably never heard before, and they don't know anything about the Lord's Supper. I mean, how are you going to make them feel connected? Well, you're going to have to build a relationship, which means you're going to have to be able to sit down and talk to them, maybe across from a dinner table. It may be sitting down knee to knee talking. I don't know, but we're going to have to do that in order to be able to build relationship. When we build relationship, then we have opportunity to be able to influence and lead for Christ. Would you start to say, Kat?
Well, the one thing I was going to say is participant. I don't really remember what she said when I wasn't looking at her. I don't really remember what she said when she was looking everywhere or looking at the phone. But I remember everything she said when we were talking to each other.
Yeah.
And we were able to really communicate. I mean, I heard penguins. I heard that everything slips off of them. Because I was funny. But I don't remember much of anything else
Yeah.
that she said during those exercises. Whereas when we were actually communicating, I remember.
I remember the bear and growling in the morning, so.
About furry legs.
Don't care.
You can crawl in the morning if you want.
I love that.
One thing about connecting that I've heard a lot around, especially from men, is that there's a real easy excuse to say, well, I'm just not good at that. I'm not good at sharing. I'm not good at connecting. I'm not good at it. Well, the reality is none of us are. That's why we need to do it and practice it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's one of the things that stops us from it, because we just opt out and say, I'm not
Yeah, and a part of that's connected generationally. I think a lot of times the older generation, they grew up in homes where you didn't share anything. You didn't share emotions. You didn't share, your personal life. You didn't share those things. That they were very private. I know that my grandparents on both sides were very private. I knew very little about any of them, other than we went to their home for Thanksgiving or Christmas, and we did that kind of stuff. But we really didn't know them. And my parents kind of came out of that. And so my dad especially was not a sharer. But you're right. The only way to break free from that is through practice. We have to be able to work on developing kind of relationships where we do that. And sometimes getting out of that comfort zone of not sharing can be one of the best things that can ever happen to us. How do we even confess to God if we're not willing to share with Him openly the things that are going on in our life and that we struggle with? And, sometimes we just couch it with this cloaking statement of, and forgive us of our sins. And I'm telling you, if we can't be more intimate with God than that, we're in trouble. Because I think Scripture teaches us that we need to be very specific with God about those things that we struggle with. And it is hard to do that sometimes. But I'm telling you, it's a good place to begin practicing. Jim?
When we talk about, as a Christian saying, well, sometimes guys are honest, that's not my thing, or I don't, do it. And say the environment we're in. Guy I was in business with, he said, keep the door closed. There's one thing people talk about you, the fact the door is closed.
Yeah.
Open it up, now you're calling.
Yeah.
They can see all these other things, make it talk about all the things. But his block was
Close the door. Yeah.
closed, because then there's only one thing.
Yeah, yeah. And we've done that in the church. I mean, we got to be very careful with that.
Trust. You have to be trusting, you have to trust that person,
Yeah,
whatever you share with them or whatever, that's not
yeah, yeah. Trust is a big part of that. But you would think in the church is the place that that could exist. You know, that we can have the kind of trust that we can share with people.
You said two separate things about your father. One was that he was the best evangelist you ever knew, but he doesn't share his emotions or his heart much with anybody. Do you think he used his evangelism as a way of avoiding opening his heart to people and stuff?
That's a good question.
A protection mechanism for him?
Maybe. I don't know.
It may also have been a way for him to get his feelings out and to share with people.
Well, he was a pretty non-emotional guy. Yeah, and I was thinking more in terms of with the family, you know.
Well, he didn't share with the family. I
No.
thought that he would share with some
Yeah,
stranger.
yeah. Now him and Mom, I'm sure they shared a lot. You know, their whole life was that way. But
I could see somebody having his presentation to somebody and kind of being able to
Yeah.
open that up
Yeah.
without sharing.
well, you know, just simple things like, I mean, it took him. I was an adult with kids, married with children, before I ever heard him start saying things about how proud he was or that he loved me. I mean, we just didn't hear those things growing up because he didn't expose himself vulnerably to being that kind of a person. And so it took a while for, and I don't know if it was us talking to him about those kinds of things or what it was, but there was something that switched as we got older and we all moved on and we had our own families, that he started to make some of those changes. But then it felt awkward to me because I didn't know how to deal with that because I'd never heard it. And it's not that I didn't appreciate it, but it's just not what I was used to. And so I think what we have to do in the church is we're going to have to flip that thing upside down in a way to where, yeah, I'm not comfortable with it, but I've got to do this because I need to be that kind of person for my brothers and sisters. Because if they're ever going to come and talk to us and be vulnerable, it's because they feel safe enough that we've done the same with them. And so that's the whole relationship piece. And communication is a big, big part of it. Did you have your hand up, Mary?
I was just wondering if it's generational, you know, like, I don't remember my parents being, kind of like your father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know it was, a lot of that was generational. But, you know, and I've learned that, you know, what I learned from all of that is that when we started having kids, I started telling them young. You know, I wanted to make sure I didn't have that same relationship. And so I worked on that. And I've been more vulnerable with them. My daughter bought me a little book, kind of like a diary, but it has a lot of questions in it about our history, about our family and those kinds of things. And so I've been trying to write some in that periodically, and just so that when I'm gone, they have some of that information. But very interesting that, you know, our relationship with our kids seems to be far different. At least I think it is because of the way they, I think it's Cheryl. I'm crediting Cheryl with a lot of that because she grew up in an abusive family. Her father was an alcoholic. Her mom was an angel, I'm telling you. She was awesome. And Cheryl kind of got a mix of both of them. I mean, on one hand, she has the heart of her mother, but there are times her dad kind of creeps out, you know, about he's never been wrong, if you know what I mean. He's never been wrong about anything. And sometimes that kind of comes out with Cheryl. You know, she'll make a statement about something. I'm like, I don't think that's right, but she'll argue it. You know, I'm like, that's your dad coming out. But anyway.
I think it's not only generational though, and I think you were spot on when you said men need to learn this, because boys in that age
Yeah.
You know, there's no crying at baseball. You can't show your emotions. And so you learn never show your emotions. Even with your own spouse sometimes.
Yeah.
It's hard to show your emotions. My husband and I have had many times when I try to communicate with him and I'm trying to look at him and I can see it's not going in. It's not going in because he's afraid to get emotional. I can't say
Emotional?
about what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to do that in front of me or in front of anybody else.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for him to share.
Yeah.
And I think that many men that I've met, especially in that generation, are the same way. My mother was a sharer, so I got that from her.
Yeah.
But my dad was not. He was very emotionally distant in many ways. He was an engineer.
Boy, that was a...
He was very taken out. But that was his life. He
Sure.
was computers. He invented the cache memory. That's what his life was all about.
Yeah.
And, you know, he would come home and he'd be there, but the emotions were not
Yeah.
ever there.
And so we're going to have to, as the church, we're going to have to work on that. I mean, especially as we're working with younger generations of people that are coming in, we're going to have to find ways to help this younger generation know that it's okay to be that way, and they see us demonstrating and modeling that, then they feel like it's okay, and they see us as being authentic. And I think that's very appealing to a lot of people. I want to talk about the difference between these two things, effective communication and communicating effectively. I've kind of touched on some of this already last night and a little bit this morning. Let me explain the difference in the two. When I say effective communication, I'm talking about the means that we use to communicate. What are we using to communicate? And when I say means, I'm talking about the idea of, are we using text? Are we using email? Are we sending a card or a letter? Is it a bulletin board announcement sheet that's hung up? Is it a pulpit announcement? Or are we talking to people face to face? I mean, there are a lot of different ways or means that we use to communicate. And I'm not saying that it's wrong to do any of them. I'm just saying that when it comes to especially things that are of a more serious matter, then we have to learn to be able to communicate face to face. You know, if there's conflict, if there's change, if there's some kind of challenge that's going on, then we've got to talk to people face to face. There are going to be times that when you're going to want to have a congregational meeting. Let me just say a couple things about this. When you think about the church, you think about elders, and bless you, you think about elders and their desire to communicate things and how they go about communicating things. You know, it's interesting to me. I don't read anywhere in Scripture where elders had meetings. Does that make sense? There's no place that says elders got together and on Sunday afternoon they spent 2 hours making all the decisions for the church. There's no place in Scripture that says that. There's also no place in Scripture where it talks about having a men's business meeting. And yet those are our two go-tos when we think about the idea of who's making decisions and what's going to happen here. And what we've done is we've kind of turned the church into a corporation in which we've got a board who's making these decisions, and they're then dealing out those decisions to everybody to try to make sure everything gets done and try to find people who are willing to volunteer to get on board and do some of these things. And really the only example that we have is a congregational meeting. And the thing is congregational meetings were not established in the New Testament for the purpose of making decisions. It wasn't a town hall meeting to where everybody got to say, well, what would you like for us to do in 2026? And you got 16,000 different things coming up. That's not what it's about. When they gathered together as a congregation, it was for information, not for decision, if you will. And so, obviously, there are going to have to be decisions made when it comes to the church, and someone's going to have to make some of those decisions. But the best way for decisions to be made is when shepherds talk to people face to face and say, this is what we're dealing with. We've got maybe 2 options or we got 3 options, and you can even do this as a congregation. Say, look, we've got these, we'd like your feedback. But I tell you, the best way to get that is face to face, individual families. That way they can ask questions. They're not going to do it in a congregational setting. They're just not everybody. You're going to have a few, and generally what happens is you have the dissenters, you have the people who are going to try to defeat it, Or you're going to have a few who want it to work, and then you're just going to have this conflict that you're going to have to figure out how to settle. But you can minimize all of that if you will communicate with people face to face. I told you earlier about the 6 military leaders that I interviewed. I mean, an admiral in the Navy, colonel in the Army. I interviewed a two-star general in the Army, along with a colonel. I interviewed a major in the Marines, and I forget the Air Force guy. I interviewed every branch of the military services. Every single one of them is the same thing. The most effective way to communicate with people is face-to-face. And like I said, they had a confirmation brief in which the person had to come back to make sure that they understood. And so that's the difference between effective communication and communicating effectively. Effective communication involves the means that we use to communicate, but communicating effectively is about understanding. Do they understand? And the only way you know they understood what you communicated is if you give them a chance to speak back. You know, one of my favorite go-to texts on communication is Genesis 23. I don't know if you remember Genesis 23, but this is where Abraham is trying to buy a field that has the cave of Machpelah so he can bury Sarah, his wife, who has died. He finds out the field belongs to Ephron, a Hittite. And so what he does is he approaches the leaders of the gate about this situation. And of course, they're like, "You're a mighty prince among us." You know, they knew that God had blessed him. They're like, "Take the field." And so he's talking with Ephron. And he tells Ephron, "I will pay for the field." And Ephron is like, again, reiterating this whole process. "You're a mighty prince among us. You know, I will give you the field." And Abraham comes back again. He says, "No, but I will pay it." Then Ephron says, "Listen to me. What is a piece of property worth 400 shekels of silver between you and me? I will give it to you." Did you hear what Ephron said? What did he say? And that is what he said. But he started off by saying, "Listen to me." That statement, those 3 words, and then he told him the price. In the very next verse it says, and here's why I highlight this. The very next verse it says, "And Abraham listened to him, and he weighed out the money." Do you know what 400 shekels of silver was worth at that time? 50 years' wages. 50 years' wages. And he weighed out the money and he paid for the property. Listening is so critical. We've talked about it last night. We've talked about it today. And the whole thing about listening, you know, is about understanding. The only way that we know somebody understood is if we listen to them repeat back what we've been saying. We call it active listening. And, you know, it's funny. My wife has had 3 different knee surgeries, 2 on one knee and 1 on the other. She had this issue, this bilateral band on the outside that attaches to the kneecap was, I don't know if it was shortened, I don't know what the deal was, but her whole life, it's caused her kneecap to rub incorrectly across her knee. And so it just rubbed the cartilage off from a very young age. I mean, there were times that when we were in Canada, she would walk upstairs and it sounded like somebody walking on gravel. That's how loud it was. And so anyway, she had those surgeries. They cut those bands that allowed the kneecap to flow freely. They had to go in and clean the cartilage up on another surgery. But anyway, when we lived in Virginia, my office was on the 2nd floor. And so when she would come upstairs to talk to me, I knew that I didn't need to be looking at my laptop. But the problem that we have had is I usually just wait for her to take a deep breath so that I can jump in and tell her how to fix whatever it is she's struggling with. Now, it's only taken me 3 times, and I can count I know every single time. In fact, it happened right before we left Virginia. But the 3rd time, she's like, "We're done." And she would start to walk out. And I said, "No, come back. We're not done. She goes, you're not listening. Yes, I am. No, you're not. Yes, I am. And you know what she says next? Tell me what I just said. And I feel like a teenager in Bible class on Sunday. Jesus? Like Jesus is the question, not the answer. I'm like, But see, she knew I wasn't listening. I mean, the biggest problem that we have when it comes to communicating effectively is we're thinking about how we're going to respond rather than listening to what the other person is saying. And listening, especially with the intent of telling the person, this is what I'm hearing you say. Now, I told this last night, for those of you who weren't here last night, there are 6 messages that take place every time we speak. Learn this, Bob. Okay? Because I can already tell you, she's going to be like, yep. There's what you think you say, and then there's what you actually say. Then there's what the other person hears you say, and then here's the big one. It's what they think they heard you say, and then there's what they say they think they heard you say, and then there's what you hear them say about what they think they heard you say in the first place. Am I right? Of course. I learned it from somebody else far smarter than me. But the thing is this. There truly are times that I think I heard her say this. But the only way I know if I know you're looking at him like, are you paying attention, Bob? I mean, I know there have been times, and this is the only way I know, is I'll say to her, what I'm hearing you say is this. Now, when we're talking about playing pickleball or the weather or how my day was, none of that stuff is relevant. But when we're talking about some pretty serious stuff, it's important for me to say, what I'm hearing you say is this. Because that gives her an opportunity, 1, to know that I'm at least trying to listen and not think of a response. And 2, it gives her an opportunity to correct it, because as much as she's probably never wrong, there are times... Are you okay? There are times, very few, but there are times when what she thought she said was not what she actually said. You're cracking me up. Oh, yeah. So there are times she says things that really she didn't say what she thought she said. And so we have to talk about that, but it gives her a chance to correct it when it needs to be corrected. And so that's an important thing. Now, it's true in marriage, in any relationship, but when you're talking about dealing with a congregation of people who all come from different backgrounds, different perspectives, different perceptions, all those kinds of things, the only way you can lead them effectively is if you give them a chance to ask those questions for clarification. So you have to be able to listen and listen well. And so when you're talking about making changes, when you're talking about making any kind of adjustment or whatever it is, talking about something that's coming, sit down and talk to people face to face and give them a chance. It takes longer, I know that. But I'll tell you what, you will minimize, if not eliminate, resistance. And you give people an opportunity to buy in and be supportive because they feel valued. They feel heard. And even if you're making a decision and they give you some input and you decide not to go in that direction, they will be less resistant because they at least know you listen to them. And so if you want to minimize, if not eliminate, the resistance or the conflict that can come when you're making those kinds of decisions, then talk to people face to face. It will make all the difference. So what happens without communication? Well, there are a couple of things. One is suspicion grows. When we don't communicate with people, people get suspicious. And I'll tell you right now, the number one thing I hear from people in congregations is they have no idea what elders are doing. Because they're wondering what they're talking about when they meet privately and what decisions they're making and why they're making them. And it just creates suspicion because we're not open and transparent with people when it comes to the things that are going on. And so suspicion is going to grow when we do not communicate and communicate effectively. Number 2, distrust blossoms. You know, I mentioned earlier this idea. I told you I wrote this book on the idea of, it's called Zone Leader. It's the 7 ways to lead in the zone, or 7 tactics for leading in the zones. And I talk about this idea of being in the comfort zone. The only way to get out of the comfort zone is you have to make change. Well, when you introduce change, a lot of things happen, mainly conflict. And so you're going to have people who are resistant to conflict. And what happens is when people start getting resistant to the change and they're creating this conflict, the biggest thing is they start lacking trust in their leadership. Because they're not sure, as leaders, you know what you're doing. Because, you know, everybody's kind of the armchair quarterback on Sunday, but you put them in the game, they haven't got a clue how to do it. But when you're talking about communicating with people, if you're not communicating with them, distrust is going to be the result. They're going to get suspicious, and they're going to distrust you. Third, doubt is going to develop. They're going to doubt the decision. They're going to doubt whether you did the effective legwork. Did you do your research? Did you vet this thing properly? Did you get other people's opinions? Did you find out? I mean, they're going to just doubt. They're going to doubt it. And so as a result, they're going to lead to distrust and, of course, suspicion. And then stress is going to fuel worry. They're going to get stressed because we're making these changes, and they're going to be like, I tell you, I'm concerned with the direction of this congregation. That's what they start thinking. And so it becomes worry, and it begins to eat at them. And of course, it just continues to fuel everything else. And then anxiety leads to fear, ultimately. And so people are going to be afraid of what's happening. They're going to be afraid of why it's happening, and all of those things. So let me just run through a couple of things here about how to improve communication, then we'll take a short break, and then we'll wrap up here as close to 3 as we can. So what steps would you suggest to improve congregation with the Halfmoon congregation? Improve communication. So what do you think needs to be done to improve communication here in the congregation?
More face-to-face.
All right, we'll start there. More face-to-face.
More small groups, but not always the same ones together.
All right, so rotate small groups.
Yep, but mix it up, get to know people, and then mix it up and become new people.
Yeah, good. Very good. And it does take. I know that it takes more time. But there's one secret ingredient here, or maybe I should say secret benefit to talking to people face to face. You're developing a relationship with them. And as a shepherd, that's certainly what you want. You want to develop a relationship with them. I don't know if you guys did this or not, but the congregation, one of the congregations, I know several actually, but one of the congregations that I tend to mention a lot is Manford. Three of the most wonderful men I know. I mean, they are amazing shepherds. But during the pandemic, they have a congregation of about 120 people. And what they did was they divided up the congregation into groups of 40. 3 groups of 40. And so every week, an elder called that group of 40. And the other elders called their groups of 40. And then they rotated. And so the second week, it was the second group of 40 until every month, every member in the congregation heard from every shepherd. How are you doing? How are you holding up with all this? What can we be praying about for you? Is there anything you need? What can we bring to you? I mean, all that stuff. They were connected. And soon as the pandemic lifted, they stopped. They stopped calling every week. Why? Because it took time. Now that we're meeting back in the building, we'll just talk to people when they come in the doors of the building. And don't misunderstand me, they're still wonderful men, and I think they're very connected in a lot of ways. But, you know, that time during the pandemic really gave us an opportunity to see some of the things we need to be doing to be connected to the people. And we need to continue to do those things. And it does, it takes time. What else? What else can you do to help improve communication within the Half Moon congregation? Think those 3 steps will do it? Well, if you...
I think if that was a start.
Well,
Be in the moment with our attention.
yeah, be present. Be vulnerable. Ask questions. Open-ended questions that require people to give a response besides yes and no. So let me share some thoughts with you about improving communication. You're going to have to be intentional about it. It will not happen by accident. You're not going to wake up one day and say, oh, we're great communicators. It doesn't work that way. You're going to have to intentionally, and if we start right here with the idea of time, you're going to have to intentionally set aside so much time every week that you're going to be able to do this. And so it requires intentionality on your part. Number 2, time, which we already talked about. Understanding, it's going to require you to be understanding of people's schedules and people's things that are going on. You know, it's not always going to fit within your schedule. Does that make sense? Sometimes you're going to have to figure out a way that you can work around other people's schedules because they're important. As the heart of a shepherd loves the sheep, they're important. And so you kind of have to be willing to do that. Patience. If you're going to improve communication, we've talked about this quite a bit already, the idea of being patient with people. You certainly want to be patient, and it's going to require face-to-face. And so you guys are on track. All of these things, if you'll just do those, what a great start, like you said. So I'm going to just show you these list of do's and don'ts. Don'ts, number 1, don't think of a response when you're talking. Don't be quick to speak. Don't be overly emotional. You can be emotional, but watch being overly emotional. Watch being judgmental. Don't be negative. Don't look away. Don't look at your cell phone or your watch. Don't focus on yourself. It's not about you, it's about them. Don't assume there is understanding when there isn't. And don't use absolutes. Don't say always and never. You know, you're always this way, or you're never like this, or, you know, those kinds of things. So watch using the absolutes. And then don't interrupt. You talked about that earlier, Gary, about not interrupting people. Let them finish their thought, and that'll give you time, even if you take 10 or 15 seconds to think about how you want to respond. First response should probably be something like what I'm hearing you say is, and then repeat back to them what they're saying. And so if you can do those things, so with that in mind, some do's to keep in mind is create a safe space. I can't emphasize enough the importance of creating a safe space. Make eye contact with people. Don't look away. Actively listen. Ask questions. Talked about that. Be curious, with people. Speak clearly. Be direct. Be brief. The idea is you want to pay attention. Tone of voice is part of that. Tone of their body language and what are the actual words that they're using. Then you want to maintain a positive attitude when you're talking to people, and you want to validate their emotions. And so, would you like to have that back? There you go. I'm glad to give you a copy of this if you want it. He's got it on the deal back here. He can just give you a copy of it. But you want to validate their emotions. So those are some do's and don'ts when it comes to communicating. If you'll practice those things, it really will improve your ability to communicate with one another.
If the situation is appropriate, do you think it's okay to take notes?
Yeah.
Is that good for...
Yeah, absolutely. And let them know up front. You want to make sure you're understanding clearly, so you want to take down a few notes just to make sure you're getting that right. Now, I don't know anybody that would say, no, I want you to remember this. Well, if I write it down, I'll remember it better. So yeah, I think it's very important to make sure that we do that. And if taking notes is going to be helpful, then just let them know up front. I brought a pad. I'd like to take a few notes just to make sure I don't misunderstand anything. And then and let them know you're going to be going back over it so that they can clarify if there's a misunderstanding. So I think that's a great way to do that. So stand up, take a break.